How about we go back to the early 2010s? Life was simpler. YouTube was still full of dumb stick figure animations, cursed Sonic AMVs, and Naruto vs. Goku videos set to Linkin Park. Meanwhile, the biggest concern in your life was trying to decipher an ancient Mayan prophecy about the world possibly ending when you were 12. No, that was just me? Alright. Well, regardless, if you were a kid during this era, you gotta remember Beyblade. The anime was hype, the toys were dope, and the tournaments? Pure chaos in the best way possible. So how did something that felt that huge just disappear? Well, before we get into that, we need to understand, or as I wrote in my script, uncertain, why it was popular in the first place. So first off, the Beyblade Metal Fusion toys were so much more than just that. These weren't the simple plastic Beyblades from the early 2000s. These were borderline weapons that trained you for an early gambling addiction. You couldn't just have one. Now, each of them came with a bunch of parts like the face bolt, energy ring, fusion wheel, spin track, and performance tip. And yeah, that sounds like way too many parts for a kid's toy, because it kind of was, but that's also what made them so great. This was your first crash course in engineering and strategy. Every kid became a self-proclaimed expert. You'd sit cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by mismatched pieces, trying to remember if the 145 spin track gave better balance or if it made your attack type wobble too much, all while you'd be failing math in school. You'd mix and match parts like you were gonna get a military contract with Raytheon until you had what you knew was the ultimate combo, only to get absolutely bodied by someone running a custom Earth Eagle build with a rubber tip and a stamina merchant that prayed to God that he did enough to outlast you. What made it even better was that there was a Beyblade for pretty much every playstyle. Maybe you were the chaotic type who was betting on your setup to just bitch slap the other guy's Beyblade out of the stadium, all offense, no breaks, basically a Madrid masterclass. Or maybe you were more tactical, building a stamina type that just packed the midfield and, like I said, outlasted the other Beyblade. It wasn't always appreciated by the people, but it was respectable. That was me. I knew most people wanted all the smoke and the glamour, but I was different. I was a visionary. I consider myself as Sean Dyche, managing Burnley, getting over the line, doing just enough to win, but not everybody is going to appreciate the way that it was done. But if you were really serious, if you were the Pep Guardiola of Beyblade, I guess, you would build a balance type, the holy grail of combos. But the reason why I say that it was a Pep Guardiola style is that you had to have the money to buy a bunch of different Beyblades just so you could find the right parts. Anyways, the crucial part of it all was the metal. That was the real difference maker. These things had weight. The fusion wheel was usually made up of solid metal, which meant when two Beyblades collided, it wasn't just some gentle bump, it was satisfying as hell. And they really put the blade in Beyblade here, since these bastards drew blood. It was like dodgeball with shrapnel. You didn't just play with these, you risked your limbs. I remember getting walloped with a poison serpent on my cheek, which sounds badass, but it felt horrible because just look at this. It doesn't look pleasant, let alone feel great when it's flying at your face. Still, I loved it. It made these things even cooler. Even the launchers had a vibe. That ripcord wasn't just a way to get things going. It was a statement. You'd line it up, take a breath, and then yank it like you were starting a lawnmower from hell. Let it rip wasn't just a catchphrase, it was a battle cry. You said it with your whole goddamn chest like your honor was on the line, because it was. And in those few seconds, with the clack of metal, the sparks of collision, the slow tilt of a wobbling Beyblade on its last spin, nothing else mattered. Not homework, not chores, just you, your combo, and the hope that this time you'd finally win. Though, even the launchers were kinda dodgy, since sometimes they'd get jammed and you'd fuck up your finger a bit, or it would be too close to the sharp plastic bit and you'd skin your fingers, so you can kinda start to tell why these were retired. I do remember back in the day though, I used to haul my stadium to school pretty often. Every break we'd all whip out our Beyblades and see who had fine-tuned their setup the best since last time. But man, the second I walked through those school doors with that giant chunk of plastic under my arm, the teasing started. I mean, being a nerd wasn't exactly a badge of honor in 2010, and showing up with a bright blue stadium definitely didn't help my cause. Now, fighting your friends was fun and all, but tournaments, that was where legends were born. This was the big leagues, or at least it felt like it. Some tourneys were grassroots, thrown together in comic shops, cramped mall toy stores, or even school hallways if a teacher decided to look the other way. Others were more serious, hosted by the World Beyblade Organization, yes, that was a thing, complete with brackets, judging rules, stamina checks, and actual prizes. And then you had the drama. You had kids squatting on the floor, arguing over whether someone's performance tip was legal, or claiming their Beyblade only burst because it was already cracked from before. The rulebook was gospel to some, background noise to others, debates broke out over launchers, spin direction, and whether certain parts were banned, and meanwhile parents were confused trying to figure out why their kid was passionately talking about low track defense types like they were Pep trying to figure out a new formation. But beneath the chaos there was a kind of beauty in the madness because there was real technique. This wasn't just about yanking the ripcord and hoping for the best, though let's be real, that was a valid strategy for a lot of us. The top players had mastered moves like the sliding shoot, where you'd launch your Beyblade at an angle so it curved around the stadium, striking from the sides. Others developed precise wrist flicks, figuring out that the tiniest adjustment could change how long their Beyblade stayed upright. It was a weird blend of physics, finesse, and maybe a little bit of witchcraft. And then there was the meta. Oh, the meta. You think the 3 strategist meta in Rivals is annoying, but the Earth Eagle 145WD, Lightning L-Drago CH120RF, or Burn Fireblaze stamina builds drove people absolutely insane. Everyone tried to find new ways to counter them, whether it was by swapping parts, begging their parents for one more Beyblade from the store because everyone has it now. It was Pokemon cards meets F1. And when you finally pulled off a win with your janky custom shit no one expected to work, you felt like Kevin Garnett after beating the Lakers in 2006. For a lot of us, those tournaments were more than just games. They were the first time we ever cared about competition. The first time we put effort into strategy, practice, and even nerves. You learn how to win, how to lose, how to shake hands afterward, even if your pride was in pieces, along with your Beyblade. But of course, where there's competition, there's cheating. Some kids, you know who you are, you bastards, started showing up with Beyblades that didn't quite look right. Maybe the fusion wheel was unusually heavy, maybe the tip was way too sharp, or maybe it was just a completely fake Beyblade bought from a sketchy eBay seller in the hopes of stomping everyone in one hit. There were rumors all over the internet, people using magnets, illegal metal cores, launchers modded for ridiculous RPMs. One second your Beyblade was spinning fine, the next it got shadow realmed out of nowhere. So the WBO and other tournament organizers had to crack down on this. They started inspecting parts, banning off-brand pieces, and even weighing Beyblades before matches. Suddenly, it wasn't just enough to have a good combo, you had to prove it was legit. Now, if the toys were the cake, then the anime was just the cherry on top. This shit was so peak. I remember it being on TV at around 5. I would come back home from school, eat, and then sit my ass down to watch Pokemon and Beyblade back to back. It had everything you'd want, high stakes and over-the-top plot lines. It's legit canon that Moses split the sea with the Beyblade, which also means that Jesus had to be rockin' one too. He probably showed up to the Last Supper with a limited edition Holy Spirit launcher and said, "One of you will betray me." But first, let it! At the center of it all was Jenga. He was interlinked with his Storm Pegasus to a point where, as a kid, you felt compelled to embrace your own Beyblade like that. And Jenga wasn't alone. The show had a whole lineup of characters that honestly went way harder than they needed for a show about spinning tops. You had Kyoya, who's like the Vegeta of the show, Madoka, the team mechanic and actually the MVP since she kept everything running behind the scenes. Then there was Ryuga, who was basically Sasuke, edgy, powerful, kinda scary at the time, and my personal GOAT because he had Lightning L-Drago, which was the only left-spinning Beyblade of the early saga. When you saw it in the show, or even in person, you were kind of scared because it cooked pretty much everything. I had one of those back in the day, and I gotta say, nobody liked me. And the animation? Surprisingly hype. Every battle had explosions, lightning, and dramatic zoom-ins. It was way too hype for what the show was actually about, but it worked. You'd see a Beyblade just slightly tilt in the anime, and the background would shatter into flames and chaos. And then for some reason, no one questioned why they were causing tsunamis or creating literal universes when they collided. And underneath all of that ridiculousness, you had actual themes that you would expect to find in animes, like friendship, perseverance, redemption, and all that jazz. All delivered through increasingly dramatic tournaments and Beyblade duels that, I gotta say, could rival any shonen battle scene. I said it, I'm sorry. So in general, it had a lot of heart and charm, so you actually cared about what happened. We also can't forget about the music, because that intro song, beautiful. It's up there with the X-Men or Spider-Man themes from the 90s, in my humble opinion, which is actually objectively correct if you didn't know. All in all, the anime gave us the heart behind the game. It turned random spinning tops into warriors, battles into destinies, and us into believers. For a few golden years, it made Beyblade feel like the most important thing in the world. So what happened? Honestly, the world just kind of moved on. After Metal Fury, the series started winding down, and eventually Beyblade Burst came in with a new look, new vibe, and a new gimmick: Beyblades that burst apart mid-battle. It was flashy and fun in its own way, but it didn't quite hit the same. I mean, personally, it was already enough that the Metal Fusion Beyblade could just shatter at any moment if it was thunder cunted out of the stadium, let alone that being a feature. Metal Fusion was grittier, heavier, literally and tonally, and as games moved online and trends shifted, kids just kind of stopped playing with physical toys. Trading Beyblade parts got replaced by trading skins in Fortnite. I tried so hard to not make that sound like a boomer take, but I just can't, so we're gonna stick with it. So it's not that Metal Fusion was bad, it just belonged to a different time. A time when toys had gears and weights, you didn't quite fully grasp the internet, and life was a bit slower. So yeah, Beyblade Metal Fusion might not be trending anymore. You're not gonna see it on Netflix's front page or find the toys all over the place, but for those of us who lived through it, who screamed "let it rip" in backyards and basements, it was something special. It taught us to build, to strategize, to compete, to gamble, and maybe most importantly, patience after our Beyblades got sent flying for the 7th time. And that just about wraps up today's video, ladies and gentlemen, as well as my script, so let's hope I can wrap this up decently. Yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below, what your experience with Beyblades are. Do you still have your Beyblades? I wish I kept mine because I really miss playing with my Rock Leone and my Lightning L-Drago. That was a special time. So I wanted to make this video just talking about that to express my joy about those things. I want to order some Beyblades myself. It's going to take a long time for them to get to me because they're coming from Japan. Nevertheless, I hope to play with them, and I don't know what my experience is going to be this time around, but I just like using them from time to time. It's fun to fiddle around and see what combinations you can come up with. And yeah, so if you guys liked today's video, consider liking and subscribing to the channel. It really encourages me to keep going, and I know I'm not wasting my time here. And I look forward to seeing you guys, or you hearing my voice and me imagining what you look like when you comment on the video. And so at any rate, again, thank you so much for watching as always, and until next time, make sure to take care.